What's up?
So now that we've pressed record, everyone always goes like, oh, right. But yeah, and I always feel like the best part of the conversation generally tends to be the conversation that's had like before the microphone goes on.
Those ones where it just fades into an existing conversation.
Just talk about what we were talking about. Oh,
yeah, exactly. But it's not real PC. So,
Cam, mate, thanks for coming down. Thanks for the training session. That was good.
That was fun.
First time to hit some cleans in a long time.
My thumbs on that cycling were getting a bit gnarly there.
Both here, just covered in chalk, sweating. But I think the contrast from the screen might actually like...
They can't see it.
Yeah. And hopefully most people are listening, not watching. Mate, welcome back to Oz.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Melbourne. Welcome out of quarantine. Welcome out of lockdown. So I guess probably a good place to kind of start is your last 6 months. I guess even compared to most of the community in Melbourne has definitely been a little bit of an adventure. So there's a few things I want to chat to you about today. Definitely your quarantine experience. Definitely want to pick your brain as far as how to build an engine and more sort of specific conditioning work as well.
Yeah.
But maybe let's just start. You know, you're someone that's been around within the industry for quite a while now. Do you want to give us a little bit of rundown of where it all started, how we got to even meeting in Canada, and kind of where things are at the moment?
Yeah. So, how long have I been in the fitness industry? Like I started when I was 14. So I was like the classic like young chubby kid. Played sport and all that sort of stuff, but food was my vice. So I was one of the younger chubbier kids, and how I got into it was kind of really weird because I remember I was just in the car with my mum and we were driving past, I think it was like a Genesis fitness gym that she had a membership at. And she started talking about how she hadn't used that membership for months. They're paying for a membership and not using it. And don't know what possessed me to say it, but I basically was just like, well, how about I take over your membership? Mm-hmm. And she's like, would you actually use it? I'm like, well, yeah, like I'll go. And so we literally U-turned into the gym. It's like a $50 transfer fee, put the membership in my name, and off we go.
That's such a riot.
It was like, I know it's not an exciting story, but that's literally just...
No,
like,
I mean from Genesis, like $50 for a transfer fee every month. Like, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it is what it is. And I mean, it's probably the best $50 it ever got spent because it completely changed the course of my life. But like, I started off, you know, I did my classic, like did my consult with a trainer. I got given a program, went and did that for 3 months, went back, got my new program.
3x8.
Yeah, like chest press, leg press, seated row, go jump on the cross trainer for 20 minutes or the elliptical for our North American friends. And like, that was it. And so, you know, went back, got my second program, and then this was over like school holidays between year 9 and year 10. And I remember getting back to high school and I'd lost like a lot of weight over summer, and just like, everyone was just like, you're half the man you used to be. Like literally that sentence is etched in my brain. And like that really was like, oh, okay, I've made a really good decision here. I'm getting noticed. I'm getting really good feedback. Like, and that just encouraged me to keep going to the gym. Started researching a lot more about, you know, fitness and exercise, started building my own programs. So basically like I left the trainer that I had that was doing all my programming. I want to go do this by myself. And that's kind of where like literally just completely 180'd for where I wanted to go. Coming out of high school, I went straight into my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness so that I could work as a personal trainer. Started working for the YMCA just as a gym instructor. Basically, my job was to stand on the gym floor and say hey to people and clean up after them. That was it. Was able to pick up a few PT clients, and like, it's actually funny. I've still got all of the programming that I did back 12 years ago locked up somewhere. It's garbage. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I should probably give those people their money back because it's terrible. It's really, really bad. But it was all like learning experiences for me, you know. And so went to uni, got a bachelor's in sport and exercise science, started working with the Western Jets football club at that point, which was really cool. So starting getting into more of the strength and conditioning, athletic performance side of things. How I stumbled into CrossFit, funny story, basically broke both my feet doing a leg press. which required me to sit in a wheelchair for 3 months, surgery, had to learn to walk again. And it was kind of like in that downtime that I stumbled upon CrossFit and started researching a lot more about what that was about and what the training methodology was, because before that it was all, HIIT circuits, bodybuilding type programming, all that sort of stuff. And coincidentally enough, as I was coming out of my recovery, there was a CrossFit gym opening up in town. So I went and got a membership there, started training, absolutely fell in love with the methodology, the community, all the things that everyone loves about CrossFit. I basically fell in love with
Drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I can tell you who came 45th at the Midwest regionals. I knew everything about it. Absolute nerd of the sport. As I was doing that, I went and got my master's in strength and conditioning. And then from there, I kind of outgrew the CrossFit gym that I was in, and we ventured out to do our own space, CrossFit South Wharf in 2014. So I was owner, head coach of CrossFit South Wharf for 4 years, it was. And then at that point, my girlfriend and I made the absolute crazy decision to leave Australia and go over to Canada for 2 years on a working holiday visa. Went over there, not really sure kind of what I wanted to do. I'd obviously been in CrossFit for a number of years now, and that was kind of all I knew. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get back into that space. And I had the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, I'd also interviewed and been successful at getting a management position for Good Life Fitness. And as I was just sitting there kind of weighing up my pros and cons, I decided that I wanted to go down the road that I haven't done in a number of years. And I went to Good Life Fitness, did the whole corporate thing, the 9 to 5 type deal. But we're still quite heavily involved with CrossFit, and a lot of the friends that my girlfriend Kirby and I had gained just through trying out classes at different gyms. That's obviously how you and I met at the CanWest Games, which at the time had no idea. I just remember getting on our call together, and I'm like, oh, this is an Aussie. Cool.
Well, actually, I actually remember that conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think you guys were set up in the tents. And I think I'd only been in Canada, because it was 2018. Yeah. So I'd been there maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So maybe 17, 18.
Yeah,
maybe 17. Yeah. So maybe I've been there a year.
Okay, yeah.
And that's right. Yeah. And I think you were with some of the guys from the island and.
Yeah. We were there. We went over there to support Adam Davidson,
who
was competing. That was the year that he tore his ACL. And then, so that was kind of like our first interaction. I can't remember who it was that was kind of like the catalyst to us.
I think it was Courtney. Was it Courtney?
Oh, Courtney,
and Dan and
Yeah. So it was those guys there. So like that, and that was, that was really cool. And then fast forward 2 years, obviously COVID hits. And we get to a point where we're trying to get permanent residency in Canada. Everything's shut down. It just didn't work out. We tried absolutely everything that we could, got forced to come home. Did the whole 2-week hotel quarantine thing, which at that point was still free for us.
You beat the rush.
Gosh, I thank my lucky stars every single day that we got to beat that.
Which is funny because obviously we were working together at the time, and you were pretty intent on not getting on a plane and coming home at that point too. You were gonna make sure you took as long as you can to.
We left the day our permanent residency expired.
Okay.
I milked it for every minute, and I remember our phone calls. I was terrified about not only just coming home, but also what am I going to do for 2 weeks in a hotel locked up in terms of exercise and my nutrition. And, I think we had some really, really good conversations about that. And just you can't control this as much as you want to. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's just not make an absolute mess of it, and we'll come out the other side better than when we went in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really, really important for me, because when you're sitting in a room by yourself and over a 2-week window, you get one 15-minute break outside your hotel room, you kind of got to hold on to some things to kind of keep you strong. Otherwise, you're just going to go off the edge and lose your mind.
Yeah.
Which arguably you could say that happened to Kirby, but I think I did all right for myself.
Well, I guess as we kind of get into where we are now, you'd sort of raise the idea of, getting OP off the ground. And I guess that really gave you something to, because there's a shitload that goes into like starting up a new business. And I guess it kind of gave you something to do with.
Yeah. Like it's interesting when, obviously with all the experience that I've had in the industry, I don't think I ever truly believed that you could make a sustainable career as a personal trainer. And I think to an extent that was the way that I kind of managed my PT business before I moved overseas, cash jobs here and there, you
side hustle.
Side hustle, booking things on pen and paper. You forget sessions here and there, but like it's casual. So it's like, no big deal. If there's one thing that Good Life Fitness taught me, it's that it is very viable to make a full-time lucrative career as a personal trainer running your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And Good Life taught me all of the skills that I needed, from, systems to sales, to booking. I had a lot of development opportunities given to me through Good Life, and I'm forever thankful that I had access to all of that. And I was fortunate enough that, at the end of that 2 years, I felt confident in myself that I could run a very successful business, taking those lessons that I'd learned from Good Life and being able to apply it over here. So basically, like the day we arrived back into Australia, I head first went in, registered the business name, started getting logos up and running, started developing my systems.
You can give a plug if you want.
At OverPowered Athletics on Instagram and Facebook.
And the new website? And
the new website as well, which that was a week and a half of only me doing by myself, and lots of messages to the Squarespace support crew to help me out there. But yeah, like it was, the jet lag helps, because I was able to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and before Kirby even woke up, I'd already smashed out like 5 hours of me just bashing away at a laptop.
It's amazing how productive you can be when you're like motivated.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And like at that point, I just had like a million ideas going through my head of like what I wanted to do, where I wanted to take the business, and all of those sorts of things. So for me, that 2 weeks went by really, really quickly, because I was incredibly productive getting that up and running. We get out of hotel quarantine, and I get a week and a half before Melbourne gets shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So I never had an opportunity to put my business plan into effect, give or take a couple of days that I had in the gyms. But in that time, I was able to pick up a few clients, both online and face-to-face. And so like over the last, it's been 18 weeks since we got put into lockdown, it's been busy and it's been really good. I think if there's anything that COVID has taught people, it's that fitness is a priority. And even when there are things that you can't control, you have the power to make a decision every single day to exercise. And if you don't know how to do that, there's help out there that's available to get you through that. And I think a lot of people really bought into that. And where money may have used to have been an objection to hiring a PT or a coach, now it's not, because that motivation is a lot, it's going to go either two ways. It's either going to be really, really high, or it's going to go down the toilet.
Which is like the problem for waiting for motivation to occur.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, there are a lot of people where, they didn't want to wait. They're like, look, I know it's via Zoom, or I know it's outdoors, but if I don't do this, it's not going to get done. Yeah. And then there's the other camp who are like, we'll wait until gyms reopen. And, 6 weeks turned into 18 weeks. And, will we see those people again? I hope so. But getting that level of motivation back, you need a bit of a kick up the butt to be able to get there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think there's something about 27-degree days in Melbourne which like make you want to get fucking back on the wagon.
Yeah, unfortunately, September's 2 months late. September's usually like that big peak.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to get back into it, but hey, there's no better time to start than now, right?
Yeah, so. For sure. I think it is an interesting observation to make I guess particularly what we do as well, where like nothing in terms of the business really changed for us.
Yeah.
But definitely it's been an interesting time to see people change gears in terms of like, okay, like what am I doing this for if there aren't competitions coming up, or if there's not going to be times at the beach? Like, why am I doing this? And I think fundamentally, if you understand that we want you to be active and be healthy for, you know, longevity and quality of life, then it doesn't matter that your workout consists of body weight movements or like walking, whatever you can do, right? It's those habits and that kind of routine that's the most important part.
100%. And it's like, you know, the conversations that we used to have with, you know, the 2 competitions that I'd signed up for, you know, I was never more motivated to train twice a day and eat absolutely to the T when I had those competitions. And then when COVID caused them to get cancelled, you start having those internal conversations with yourself, like, why am I doing this if not for the competition?
Yeah, well, you were definitely the most jacked man in quarantine.
I try.
For sure. I think, and that was another thing too, right? Like they called CanWest Games off super late.
Yeah.
And they called, because we were prepping you for OVT. And into CanWest. So we're going to do OVT as a practice. And then a month later, we had our big debut. So we had you primed and conditioned for 12, 16 weeks. And then right at the last minute, because I think even they called OVT off and CanWest was still going ahead. So they made that call super late, which like, it's kind of the same thing with the PR, right? Like you just kind of like hope against hope that like, and I think really like being in Melbourne, when things started to crank up in March, I feel the feeling was like, maybe this is more serious than we realized, but it's not going to be like a 6-month thing.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously like the second wave in Melbourne, things probably got a little bit worse than they needed to get.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a lot of that, like, okay, maybe this is going to delay things. Maybe we have to push for a little while, but it shouldn't really, but it just had more of an impact, I think, than and we anticipated.
The way my mindset kind of ended up going was, okay, so I don't have these 2 competitions right now. There will inevitably be competitions down the road once we get ahead of COVID. I need to make sure that I don't put myself in such a hole that I have to dig myself out of to even start thinking about preparing for these competitions. So over the last 18 weeks, my sole motivation has been, I need to make sure that I am ready so that when a competition comes around, I'm good to start a full prep into that competition.
Yeah, you're not playing catch up for 8 weeks to get back to where you were 3 months ago.
Because a lot of those competitions will probably get announced. They're probably like 6 or 8 weeks away, which isn't a heck of a lot of time to, you know, if you're not ready, you know, 8 weeks is the amount of time that it's going to take for you to get ready to start preparing for the competition. Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of been my motivation kind of throughout COVID. And it was good for me to have that thing to latch onto now that gyms are open and we've got word of competition starting to come around again. You really start getting fired up and
I'm hanging for a competition. And like, I'm not a good athlete, but I just like can't wait just to, you know, like it's just fun. Yeah. Like I think probably the thing that COVID's shown me the most is like, I love training, but I love suffering with other people. Mm-hmm. Like I can never be the person that's like, here's your individualized program and you need to go and row like intervals on your own for 3 hours. Yeah. Like I'm never going to do that. But if that same workout was for a class and there's 4 or 5 people around me, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me been the biggest realization is it's not just training for like fitness. It's like that huge social aspect that you kind of get from the community and stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, isolation and quarantine makes that really, really difficult for people. I think the ones that were the most successful at staying active were the ones that were able to find a support network over that time to hold them accountable. You know, that internal motivation, it takes a very special kind of person to be happy to row intervals in a garage by themselves with no music. Yeah, like, you know, Haley Adams and Matt Fraser, but like
Cam Cushla and Rolf.
Yeah, right. Like, you know, for us normal people, you know, those
it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, exactly right. We're doing it like obviously the fitness benefits are awesome. We love the feeling of being strong and fit, But being able to do that with friends as well is, I think, more of a motivator than anything else.
I think for us, being online, I think the biggest challenge that you have from going in person, brick and mortar, to being online is, how do you replicate a sense of community when you're across different time zones? People are in different gyms. Not everyone, like when we first started MTMM, our online community group was like 10 people. And those like 10 people were like our 10 close friends. So everyone knew each other in the group.
Yeah.
So there was like a lot of like kind of conversation going on, not even like health and fitness related, just like general chit chat, which was awesome. But then as we've grown, the challenge has been, how do I make someone who doesn't know the other 500 people feel comfortable in saying, hey, I'm Cam, like, this is what I'm training for. Is anyone in the Werribee area? Like, blah, 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 whatever it is. But I think COVID's been really good at putting everyone online and saying, if you want a sense of community, like, it's here. Yeah. You just have to be like willing to walk in and put your hand up.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've taken into my business space as well. I think one of the biggest pitfalls of a lot of online programming is you just get delivered your program and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's no online accountability. There's no check-ins from your coach. Like, oh, we can put the program that I'm on. I've never heard from my coach.
Not your nutrition program.
No, nutrition program, fantastic. But my training program, and just like it kind of made me think, like, how much more would I get out of this training if I had regular check-ins? Now with MTMM, it was fantastic because we caught up every 2 weeks, and if I missed a call, I knew that you were going to be on me about it.
Yeah.
Like, get yourself booked in. Because we know that it's like those check-ins, that accountability, that sense of community is what gets people to come back and to stay compliant to their nutrition or their training program and to see results.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what I've taken into my program. So with all of my online clients, they all get check-ins with me, whether it's via email or it's online via Zoom, because it's important.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel comfortable taking someone's money if they weren't doing the program and they weren't checking in with me and they weren't seeing results. Like, that's not what I'm in the game for. I'm here because I want people to feel as good as I did when I went back to high school after a summer of working out by myself and getting all of that great feedback from my buddies. And so that's important to me. And so I make a conscious effort of making sure that I reach out to everyone. My opportunity is creating that online space where everyone connects with each other. At the moment, we're fairly small, so I've got the luxury of being able to have the time to reach out to everyone. I'm really looking forward to the day where we grow to the point where I can start getting everyone to connect themselves, and I can just sit back and just watch it grow.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things, I think, it's extremely important, but also extremely challenging to get to a client where it's like, don't just like fucking tell me when things are going well. Like, it's probably the times where you don't want to talk when we most need to catch up, and if you're having time off and you can't find the motivation and you're really struggling, that's when you need to book a call and say, hey, I need some help. Like, that's why you're paying me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're paying for. Right. The online space is super interesting. And like, I've wanted to own a gym probably since I was 15. And I think my rationale is very similar to yours. Like, I feel if I look back at the more challenging times of my life, I think the one thing that's maybe kept me relatively on the rails is that I never wanted to go too hard because I always wanted to train the next day or the day after. And the gym's been that super constant. And even coming into CrossFit and really that, because my gym upbringing was always like, everyone's staunch as everyone else in the weight racket. You know what I mean? So there's not really a sense of community unless you kind of go in there with your mates. But to have the best of both worlds, where you don't need to come in with people that you can still have, a sense of belonging with, that is. And I think that's something that, despite COVID, and maybe that will just affect the timing, but it's still definitely something that we really want to work towards. But
yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing with me. Like, as soon as I fell in love with the fitness industry and working out, it was the same thing. Like, I want to own a gym one day. Like, I want to create the environment where people are going to see results and accomplish things and feel great about themselves. And if I can be the catalyst for that, that's where I get my kicks from. And I was able to achieve that with South Wharf, and that was an awesome experience. I'm really looking forward to the point where we can do that again at some point when COVID decides that it's had its run and it can leave.
Maybe now's the perfect time. Maybe there's more favorable commercial lease terms, and
there's definitely a lot of new spaces that are popping up at the moment, which is really cool to see. Definitely takes some cojones for you to, in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, you're like, hey, let's open up a gym. Kudos to those people. And, I'm really excited for where the fitness industry is going to go. Now that we're out of lockdown, hopefully the rest of the world will get there soon enough. The next 12 months to 2 years, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? We had this chat earlier on where that question that, like, I don't know why people seem to ask it at every job interview you've ever been for, but it's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a ridiculous question because I think as a 20-year-old, right, or as a 25-year-old, you have no idea. And as a 30-year-old, and now maybe by the time you get to 30, you just realize how ridiculous that question is. But I think COVID has really just been a reminder that, like, you can have all the best plans in the world and still it gets tipped, on its head.
Yeah.
So maybe now is the best time, and if, like, I feel like this year in particular, having a small business, like if you own a small business during COVID, you should be awarded a certification in crisis management because it's really been like navigating through one pretty messy and challenging issue after another. Particularly if we look at, we both have client bases in North America and Canada and even issues with, say, Black Lives Matter movement and, like, how do we respond to that? And that in the middle of COVID and coming out of Melbourne, trying to do, fundraisers for bushfire. And it's just been like one big thing after another.
Yeah.
But it's also gives me hope. It's like, hey, well, if we can get through 2020, like, it's probably teaching us everything we need to get through whatever's coming next.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I remember a lot of our check-ins, especially like towards the start of COVID, were mostly centered around, you had staff that you needed to look after during all of this. I was kind of fortunate that I was kind of by myself as a sole trader. But it's like, it's not just staff that we need to manage and look after, but all of our clients as well. Their heads are scattered just like in employees. And, if you've got, for you, hundreds of clients, for me, not as many, but it's still like, I've got to have touch points with every single one of those people to make sure that they're okay, know that they're supported and that we're here for them, and that, just because COVID's here and, they may have lost their job and they can't afford to train with you anymore. It's like, we get it. We've got your back. We will be here. What can we do for you?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of, without it even being a business idea, it's one of the best retention strategies you can do is to actually support the people that want to support you.
I think it's very easy when you engage a product or a service to figure out how much people care.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for us, the best thing, we can sit here and talk as much as we like about how we've supported our clients, but ultimately at the end of the day, our clients have supported us 100%. By staying with us. Right. So it's like, well, the least I can do is help in any way.
Exactly.
But I feel like if that kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like genuinity, but like that sort of,
no, I got nothing.
Like genuine,
just giving a crap.
Yeah, just like being genuine, maybe.
Yeah.
And our goal is that no matter how big we do get, and obviously the goal is always to grow, but that remains, those personal relationships remain. And it's, you identify with a personal coach that you particularly work with, but you understand like the brand as a whole, and that's what you really do. So.
Yeah, and even like, going back to my South Wharf days, I always, like, obviously I was the head coach, but I always prided myself on knowing the names of every single person, regardless of whether they were a 6 a.m. or a 6:30 p.m. person. I knew every single person.
Yeah.
And that's important as a gym owner, as a business owner, especially in the service-based industry. As you start to grow, the things like community, caring, just genuinely giving a crap about the people who at the end of the day are, paying your bills so that you can put food on the table, all that stuff. Like, the least you can do is know every single person's name and know something about them so you can have a conversation with them.
A really good Ben Bergeron episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think he talks about like you should view your gym as your house. Like if you came into your house and someone you didn't know was sitting on your couch, would you just keep walking? Like you want to know who that person was, right? Like, are they a good fit? You know, like, because you need to protect the community and the culture that you're trying to cultivate as well. Yeah, for sure. But yeah.
I've got some good stories, maybe for another time, about people who definitely threatened our gym culture at one point or another. But it might be for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree. You got to. Ty I met, who we hired before we opened South Wharf, he said to us, your number one responsibility as a fitness, as a affiliate owner, is to protect your culture with extreme prejudice.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me throughout all of my years, not just with South Wharf, but even moving into Good Life Fitness and the corporate space. Protect your people, protect your community. Don't let people in that are going to jeopardize it.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
Yeah. Anyone who's listening that wants sales training, remembering someone's name is without doubt the number one tip I could ever give.
Yeah. We used to, so whenever I hired a brand new trainer at Good Life Fitness, the first thing that I would tell them, or the first thing that I would teach them, is how to introduce themselves and how to meet a new member. And I used to always say, you need to know their name, you need to know what they do for work, and you need to know what they like to do for fun, so that when they come in for their consultation, you start with questions that are based around who they are, what they do for work, what they do for fun.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you've built rapport right from the get-go. And so we would have new members come in, and I would shadow and I would watch them interact. They'd get the first consultation booked in. They'd come back down and sit down with me, like, all right, what was their name? What do they do for work? What do they do for fun?
Yeah.
And if they couldn't answer that question, I wouldn't let them take the consult.
Yeah. And that's maybe a good life lesson too, in terms of like the art of conversation and like getting to meet other people. Is usually people's favorite thing to talk about is themselves. So if you do meet someone and you're not good with names, you have to say their name back. Right? Yeah. Like and try to like tie that person's name back to someone else you know with a similar name.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So we got through quarantine, we got through COVID, and now we've kind of got through lockdown. Where do you see OP in the next 5 years, right? I think we're still in that interesting position where the majority of our clients definitely going into COVID were recreational to high recreational level athletes. And this is just not the majority and definitely not encompassing all. But like yourself, like I want to go to Can West and just like know that I like gave it my all. And it's not like I need to win my division. I'm not trying to qualify for the games. I really just want to go there and like feel comfortable, you know, pulling my shirt off halfway through a workout when it's 27 degrees in the middle of the athletics track, and like leave there being like, oh, well, I gave everything I had and I'm super happy. And I think that has changed a little bit over COVID, when all of a sudden there's no competitions to train for. And we're starting to get a lot more people being like, oh, I'm starting to understand that like maybe nutrition and health and wellness is linked to healthy immune system and everything else, which has been awesome. Yeah. Finally, like getting that message across. But now we're at a point where we've just had the CrossFit Games. They've just announced the CrossFit Open, particularly here in Melbourne. Gyms are starting to open. What are the steps, you know, whether you've been someone who has maintained a baseline level of fitness, or whether you've had someone who's like, oh shit, I've had like 4 months off, inadvertently or not, having the Open as a goal, which is something that's, what are we, 14, 15 weeks away?
Yeah, we're getting close. End of Feb.
Yeah, I think 21st of Feb, yeah. I think. What are you starting to, you know, talk to your clients about? How is OP starting to work with people, like working towards that goal? Where do we start?
Yeah. So
it depends.
Yeah, well, yeah. I hate that answer. I hate saying it depends because it's all contextual.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna starting with the people who had no gym access for the last 18 weeks. The next 4 to 6 weeks of their training needs to be completely centered around just getting comfortable being in the gym environment again. And by that, I mean getting comfortable hanging from a pull-up bar again, getting comfortable with a barbell in your hands, relearning all of those motor skills that you haven't touched for the last 15
just
weeks.
like the cleans.
Yeah.
We've just done.
That's it, right?
First
like,
touch and go cleans is done in like 12 months.
And I think like with the Open being relatively close, a lot of people are going to want to jump the gun and go straight balls to the wall training from the get-go.
Yeah.
People are going to be putting themselves at a massive risk of hurting themselves and having to write off the 2021 games because they didn't, or Open because they didn't do it in a smart way. So the people that I have at the moment that weren't using a gym, they've been active, but they haven't used a gym. They haven't touched a barbell or a pull-up bar. It's basics.
Yeah.
We're doing strict leg raises. We're doing strict pull-ups, strict handstand push-ups. Kipping is not in the program, period. Because we know that the muscles are going to be weakened. The tendons and the ligaments aren't as strong as they used to be. If you jumped onto a pull-up bar and tried to rep out some chest-to-bar butterfly pull-ups, shoulder's gone. Yeah, you can't catch a leg, right?
Yeah,
like,
super sore.
You know, so all of the, like, it's back to the basics. Same with Olympic lifting. It's all positional work. So we're doing 3 position snatches, 3 position cleans, tempo work.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you feel rock solid on the barbell and on the pull-up bar before we start getting into those more high skill things that we're going to see. The good news is, you know, muscle memory is a beautiful thing. Those skills are going to come back relatively quickly. We still have time before the Open actually rolls around to fine tune the engine, to fine tune those movements in high volume, high rep, high fatigue environments. We need to take the next 4 to 6 weeks to do it right so that we can actually be at the Open and be able to compete rather than from the sidelines because we went too hot too soon. So that's what I'm doing with people who haven't touched any of those pieces of equipment. For the people who have been fortunate enough to have a barbell or to have a pull-up bar and continue to do those skills, it's a little bit different because now being about 12 weeks, give or take, from the Open, we really start going into developing their engine and their work capacity because that's what the Open's all about. You know, you can get through the Open without being super strong. It obviously pays off. We were chatting about this a little bit earlier. You've got to be good at your gymnastics. You've got to have good stamina.
12 to 15 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're really starting to dig into those time domains and the skills and the movements that we'll typically start seeing in the Open, like burpee box jumps, pull-ups, all of those things. You know, a lot more like handstand walking now that that's a thing in the Open. You know, like, you got to start practicing it because it's undoubtedly going to be there. You know, if history's taught us anything, it's like once that movement shows up the first time, it's going to repeatedly show up. And if you're like me and put off handstand walking until it showed up in the Open and you're like, oh, crap.
Do you think we're going to see something like handstand walking go the same path as, say, a ring muscle up, where all of a sudden it's not, oh, don't worry, because you're probably not going to get to that part of the
100%.
workout anyway. It's going to be like, start the workout with a 10-foot handstand walk. Yeah.
100%. So what have we seen over the last 3 years? The handstand walk has been the last thing in the workout, and you had to earn your way to get
to
there.
show you could do it.
Yeah. So we saw it in the heavy Diane workout. So you had to be able to do 21 deadlifts at 143 kilos before you could even get to the handstand walk. There are a lot of people who just didn't even get to that stage. So it's like, you couldn't even pay the admission fee to learn. Yeah, myself included as well, right? Like you couldn't even pay for different reasons. Handstand push-ups for you, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was the deadlifts.
Yeah.
So I think I did normal Diane in like 3 minutes and then spent the rest of the time cap doing singles on the deadlift and couldn't walk straight the next day.
I think it was a 9-minute time cap.
Yeah.
I think I finished Diane at 8 minutes 30 and just busted out a set of 7. And that was all I was going to get.
I love how you and I are on completely different ends of the spectrum with that workout. But like, and then so the next year it was the same thing. The handstand walking was at the very end and you had to do 50 strict handstand push-ups before you could get there as well. So once again, there were a lot of people who couldn't even pay the admission fee to get to it. No, I got to it this time, so I'm okay with that. And then we saw the repeat of Diane. So that's 3 years now that we've seen handstand walking. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I think it's more than likely that this coming Open is the Open that we either see in the middle of the workout or we see it as the Open.
I have a sneaky suspicion that, and there's always body weight work in the Open, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of like, okay, a huge population of like those doing the Open haven't had gym access for XYZ times. And I know the first workout is always the most inclusive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was just solely a body weight workout and be like, here's stuff that you could have been doing in your lounge room if you really wanted to.
And we know that Dave loves to do that.
Yeah.
He says all the time, it's like, you should have been practicing. We're going to see
rowing and wall balls. Everyone can do rowing and wall balls.
Everyone can do it.
Yeah.
This came up last year. Let's see who took the hint and spent the last 12 months practicing it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't,
you're probably not going to the games anyway.
So. Well, but it's like, you know, you knew that it was going to come. You knew that you sucked at it the first time. Did you or did you not put in the work to get better at it? Let's test it.
Yeah.
It's like when he brought the pegboards back at the games.
Yeah.
You know, no one could pegboard in 2015, I think it was. 2016, the workout was called Redemption for a reason. Like, okay, none of you could do a pegboard last year. Let's see you redeem yourself. Did you put the work in to get better at it?
Yeah.
So it's a very Dave Castro move, given that handstand walking's now been in the Open for 3 consecutive years. I think this is the year that he brings it forward as a, you know, he loves to give us a little kick up the butt with those sorts of things. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just fingers crossed it's not like obstacle handstand walks. Like,
I don't think we're there yet.
That's the most annoying thing about CrossFit is like you finally get a movement and then it's like, oh, like now we're doing it in a weight vest.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I was having a chat with Kat about how frustrating it is that like thrusters at 115 are becoming like the new baseline now. It's like I finally feel like I've got a handle on a 95-pound thruster, and it's like, I think context definitely for performance is super important, but I think expectation management is another big thing. And I think ultimately, like, you know, if you find yourself in a position where you haven't done anything physical for the last 6 months, then really, like, why have you got these huge expectations of what you need to go out and do during the Open?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Definitely start sooner rather than later and give yourself the best chance. But it's probably not a realistic expectation to have that you're going to have potentially your best Open ever with 3 months preparation instead of 12.
Exactly. And that's a conversation that as coaches we need to be having with all of our athletes. Where do you see yourself performing when the Open comes in? And, you know, you can kind of gauge off that whether it's, you know, a realistic expectation. Maybe they're overshooting, maybe they're undershooting. Being brutally honest with your athletes is going to be super important, because being able to pump the tires of your athletes is important, but we don't want them to go into that Open with a false sense of how well ability and how well they're going to do. You know, so being able to have those conversations is really important. I think if you haven't had them yet, we should be having them very soon, because we're going to be neck deep into Open prep within the next couple of weeks. And it's important that our athletes know where they're at and realistically where they should be or where they can expect to be come the Open.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's going to structure the training program over the next, 12 to 14 weeks. And we need to make sure that we've got that information in play. So, coaches out there, I hope that they're conversations that you're having. If not, get on them straight away, because you don't want to set your athletes up for failure come the Open.
You're a CrossFit coach at a CrossFit box at the moment.
Yep.
What are you wanting to program? Generally, I'm guessing over the next 4 weeks, it's going to be something similar to what you've just outlined, contextually based on where your gym community is and how hard you kind of push them.
The gym programming is at the moment obviously fits within a 60-minute window, and it's all about let's get you comfortable being in the gym again.
Yeah.
And it was funny,
consistently,
right? And I think that's important, because there's no point in me programming
consistency over perfection.
Consistency, 100%, man. I like it. but what's the point of me programming a workout that has high volume toaster bar pull-ups or muscle ups or, 1 rep max snatches. What's the point of me doing that on day one and then wrecking every single member that they don't want to come back to the gym until Friday or next week?
Or worse, they rip and now they can't do anything until Friday, even if they want to be there.
Exactly. Yeah. It needs to be done in a way that makes, they need to come back and feel like they've accomplished something. If they get to the end of that workout and they feel really crappy about themselves, I'm so unfit, I'm so weak, I feel terrible. I used to be able to do burpees much better than that, and now I'm if you've absolutely crushed them, that is going to deflate their self-esteem to the point where they're not going to come back for a few days or a few weeks, or even worse, they're going to cancel their membership because they don't feel like they're fit enough.
I'm done with CrossFit.
Anymore. Exactly. Yeah. And we have a responsibility as coaches to empower our athletes after 18 weeks of lockdown to feel like they can come back and they can accomplish something and they can feel good about themselves. And the programming needs to reflect that. Anyone programming 20 plus minute Metcons with hundreds and hundreds of reps, you're setting your members up for failure.
I mean, look, there's probably space where you can have that conversation with the class saying, look, if you guys have been training with bars and stuff like that, here's an RX plus version of today's workout. Yeah. Have at it. Yeah. If it's your first time back, this is what you're doing.
Yeah. Basically what I did was, so yesterday's workout was a 12-minute AMRAP. We did 4 strict toaster bar or hanging leg raises, 6 kettlebell front rack reverse lunges, and 12 box jumps with a step down. And I basically said at the start of the class, if you did not have access to a box over the last 18 weeks, it is a non-negotiable. You are stepping down from the box.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are or how fit you are. Your Achilles tendon does not discriminate after 18 weeks of not doing box jumps.
Yeah.
You're stepping down. And you can see a couple of people who are a little
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go have individual conversations with these people because they're obviously they want to go gun-ho first workout back. Hey, give it a couple of weeks. Let's build you back up. I promise you, rebounding box jumps, kipping toaster bar, they'll come back. But I want you to be here in 2 weeks when that happens.
I think that's another point of mature coaching development, right? Where you realize that not only is it your job and your role, but it's part of your duty of care to sometimes tell your athletes no.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's sometimes we get caught up in this, that's what they want to do. They're paying for it. Have at it. I remember even when I first started PTing, and it's I thought my role or how I showed value was just destroying clients. Yeah. Right. I've got to prove my worth. I need to hurt you more than you'd be able to hurt yourself. Yeah. And ultimately, you're right. All you do is you get to a point where, and that's something that I've tried to emulate here in the garage is if you've had a shit day at work, I want you to be at least I can go to the gym now. Not, I just can't be fucked. He's going to smash me in the ground and I just can't deal with that right now.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has an emotional bank account, and there's only a finite number of funds that exist in that bank account on any given day.
Yeah.
If they have a high stress job, they have a high stress family life, with kids, family, all of that, there's shit going on in their social life. That all withdraws money from your bank account.
Yeah, literally.
Well, literally.
Let me tell you, kids withdraw money from your bank account.
But you can't go into. There's only so many times you can go into overdraft on that bank account before the collectors, come in. The debt collectors come in, right? And we need to be aware of that as coaches, that if this person didn't sleep last night, they have a high stress job, their kids are running amok, and they walk in and they look spent, and we've got heavy single deadlift program today, we're going to change that.
Yeah.
All right, let's drop the weight. Let's move 60, 70%. Let's just have a good time. This is your chance to de-stress.
Sweat, yeah.
To get a sweat, to blow off some steam, not to go further into that overdraft and potentially burn out, overtrain, hurt themselves, and have a bad experience. it takes time for a coach to be able to develop that. I can speak from experience. I was definitely as well that kind of person who's like, the effectiveness of my training program is how long you lay in a pool of your own sweat.
Yeah, or you're not sore for 2 days after. We didn't go hard enough.
Exactly, right? And now it's like, I know that soreness isn't an indicator of a good workout.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, we flew too close to the sun. Soreness has its place, of course, but for most people, especially like your everyday warriors who just want to get in their 60-minute CrossFit class,
they're going to get more out of 5 training sessions a week than they're going to get with 2
and it's
huge
like,
ones.
it's not like the first time you hear the story about how they have to hold the wall to lower themselves down onto the toilet, it's funny and you have a bit of a laugh about it. But when they're consistently telling you that, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Because we're all of a sudden not improving a person's quality of life. We're actually making it harder for them.
Yeah.
They can't walk up the stairs. They can't squat down to pick up their kids. All the things that we told them that CrossFit and training is going to do for them in terms of improving their functionality in their everyday life, we're not delivering on that. So we've got, as you said, a duty of care to uphold and make sure that we are empowering these people and we're making them better every single day. Yeah.
I think that kind of goes full circle to tie back in terms of how do you do that? It's having those initial conversations and getting to know, Cam's a accountant. So maybe end of financial year, like the 2 weeks that follow is not the best time to try to have Cam max out his fucking clean gym.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you got 3 kids, or you've just had a newborn, or like whatever it is, that having that kind of personal relationship because you care actually gives you like a better quality information to make decisions from.
Yeah, and to the other side of that is with the relationship that you build with people, you also learn which people are, a little bit on the softer side compared to the other people. And, some people will make excuses and
carrot and stick, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So there are some people where you're like, you let them bitch and moan. And it's like, okay, let's get on with it now. Let's do some work because you learn over time. It's like, okay, this person's experience, they overshoot it. Things aren't as bad as what they're saying that it is. Push them a little bit, but it's a fine line. And at the end of the day, you experiment at the start to kind of figure out what's working for this person, what's not working for this person. And, once you've got that figured out, then the training gets a little bit more effective. But it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I definitely don't have like the experience with like programming as much as you do, but the correlation between nutrition and training in the similarities of the approach fascinates me. And I think that just as with nutrition, where you need to give people the ability to eat things that they just enjoy doing, part of like effective programming is like allowing people to do movements and do workouts for fun.
Yeah.
Because if you just like hammer someone's fucking weaknesses for 16 weeks, they might do well in that workout for the open, but it's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how do you get compliance out of and consistency if it's shit and, not fun?
And it comes back to the initial consultation that you do with that person. So part of my consultation is what exercises do you like to do?
Yeah.
What exercises don't you like to do? If they don't like to do the best exercise in the world, they like, but they're like, if they don't like doing, let's say they don't like squatting for whatever reason, I'm going to try and find ways that I can work their legs without forcing them to squat because they're not going to have a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a good time, they're not going to come back. I can't help them if they don't come in to train.
Yeah.
Same token, if they enjoy doing bicep curls, and don't get me wrong, I love myself a bicep curl, but in the world of functional fitness,
they're called kipping cleans, hang cleans, dumbbell hang cleans,
kipping bicep curls from the floor. 17.2.
Yeah.
There.
Hammer clean and strict press.
Yeah, exactly. But like if they legitimately, if they just enjoy doing bicep curls, then once a week, I'm going to throw bicep curls in there because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have fun. They're going to come back. I'll sprinkle in all the other stuff that they need to do to get the results that they want. But if they think they need to do
80-20, it's the same with diet.
100%. It's not like bicep curls are going to set them back or it's going to hurt them. So it's like there's room for the last 10 minutes of their third workout of the week. Yeah, go grab the dumbbells and do, run the rack 3 times. Go for it.
Yeah.
make it fun for people. And I think there's a disconnect with people being so steadfast on the way programming has to be, and it has to be this. And like, we do CrossFit, so we don't do bicep curls, we don't do tricep push downs, we don't isolate muscle groups. It's like, well, okay, well, now it's not fun.
Yeah.
So you gotta have a little bit of flexibility with your programming. Like, tomorrow our workout has 50 barbell bicep curls. Go nuts.
Let's do it. Drop in.
Last 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Price of admission, 15 bicep curls. Okay, go grab a bar.
I completely agree. And again, it just comes back to, I think, like, knowing your community too. And that, I kind of find that super interesting when we do work with a lot of different boxes and dropping into different boxes. And you definitely, their team seems to be at most boxes pretty underlying themes in common with most of the members in that community. And I think it's very rare that you walk into a gym that has both a high level of like athlete and also like a huge amount of like just parents, 9-to-5 corporates. You tend to find that gyms attract one or the other.
Yeah.
And I think that again comes back to knowing, your community personally and what's most appropriate.
Absolutely. And I think like CrossFit gyms especially have it, like, if you don't fit in, like, it's like you make that decision by yourself that, okay, this might not be the best place for me. And that's okay. Like, I think it's completely fine to be able to have, those conversations where it's like, hey, this community, what we do here might not be what you're looking for. And as I said earlier, if we need to protect our community with extreme prejudice, then that means, this is the way that we operate. This is how our community is. This is the sort of thing that we do with our programming. We're not a high end.
I'll say, I was just going to add to that is most often from what I've seen, that conversation is to very high level athletes, not to like the average Joe who's trying CrossFit for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, the amount of times I had to turn people away who wanted to just use the corner in their, to do their own programming during the 5:30 class. Like, we don't do open gym at 5:30.
Yeah.
We've got a class though. Oh no, I've got my own programming that I do. Okay, well, we have a class at 5:30, so you can come in and do the class. And I don't care what regional you won or anything like that. Like, I've got a community that I need to protect. That is my number one priority. And so, like, people, it's self-selection, right? You do 2 weeks at a gym. Okay, this isn't the place for me. That's okay. There are thousands of other CrossFit gyms that you can try. You'll find someone that it works.
My thing especially is like, and again, like the big thing, once I have my own space that you want to make sure is like, if someone's a high level athlete and they come in, they're not a good fit, they'll go and find a box where they 100%. Are a good fit.
Yep.
But if someone's coming in to try CrossFit for the first time and they don't have a good experience, the chances are they won't. Yep. Like, they'll be like, CrossFit is not for me. I've been there and I've tried that.
Yeah. And I think, like, I love competitive CrossFit. I love competitive athletes, but competitive athletes are, they're drama queens when it comes to
prima donnas,
divas. When it comes to, and that's the stuff that is going to create a bad experience for those lesser experienced who are just like, get over it. It's just exercise. Yeah. Like, I've literally had people.
They miss a snatch, and it's like, fuck, throw this, throw that.
Yeah, and it's like, mate, calm down. Yeah. Like, we're just here to have some fun.
I miss snatches all the time. It's no big deal.
Like, God, like, if I don't miss at least one snatch in a session, I haven't trained properly. Yeah. But like, I think it's like, I think it's important to remember that if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one.
Yeah.
And I would rather have a couple of people be like, look, I tried that gym, it wasn't for me, than to have to close my doors because I pissed everyone off because I was trying to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
That's important.
That's a life lesson too for anyone listening.
Yeah, write that one down.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like we've come in, and I guess really the crux of what I wanted to speak quite a bit about today was that whole development of the online and stuff like that. But it's funny how we keep getting drawn back into this conversation about brick and mortar gym. And I find that quite exciting. And I think that's, regardless of how much we've seen the industry move, I think for me, COVID has been an experience that's not necessarily changed anything. It's just exacerbated probably what was coming down the pipeline. I think if you've been a fitness professional for over 10 years and you haven't done anything to establish any kind of online presence, and this has caught you out, like that's something that you have been able to see emerging surely over 10 years in the industry.
Yeah, I think COVID's definitely just like, if anything, it's just given you a violent shove in the direction that you were probably already heading anyway.
And I think that mostly the issues that come with that is a very big abrupt change like that is hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult, it's challenging because it's so much unknown straight away. It's not, hey, this is coming in March, so like you've got 12 months to start to work towards an online presence. But I think the gyms of the future, like I think for gyms now that have done a lot and have had to do a lot over the last 8 months, particularly in Melbourne, to build an online presence, like don't let that slide, because I think all that you've really done is giving yourself a potential to attract a community that's bigger than your four walls.
Yeah.
But I think that there will always be a pull to have a HQ, a headquarters, we have this awesome online community. And if you're doing the programming and you're ever in town, then make sure you drop in and do the class in person. But I think that there's always going to be that attraction to have that in-person gym, and it's going to be trying to extend that online rather than the opposite.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that one. And I mean, myself, I'm always much better in a one-to-one or a group in-person kind of environment.
Oh, it's more fun, even as a coach.
That's
you
it.
know,
that's it. Like it's definitely a lot more fun. I definitely had my challenges with doing like online or Zoom personal training sessions with people. But yeah, like I think it's going to be important for gyms, as you said, to continue to do your virtual sessions, even if you're just putting the camera in the corner. Hey, follow along with the group.
Posting your workout each day.
Exactly. Doing all of that stuff's going to be important, because the reality is within the next couple of years, people are going to still be somewhat apprehensive about coming to the gym and being out and about in the world. And we want to make sure that we've still got a space for those people to access our services, access our programs and get fitter, healthier, all of those sorts of things. But yeah, like the brick and mortar, the one-on-ones, the group training, I don't think that will ever go. Even
what it looks like will change, I think. I think potentially what we'll see, and I don't want to say hopefully, but I think that if anything, the gyms that are built around community and groups, after coming out so long of no socialization, I think most people are going to be ready.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe what we'll see is a change in direction of how fast we're seeing growth in the 24/7, $5 a week, pack the space with machines kind of approach, and a little bit more, unless those gyms can adapt and start to build those community, which like I'm sure Good Life is doing, and I know like most of those like Fitness First and stuff are trying to do.
Yeah.
But I think the like super cheap, here's an empty room that we've just packed as much gear in as possible, and it's like $5 a week. I think that those are going to start to.
And I think they suffered when COVID first hit.
Well, a business model that's built on people paying membership but not coming in. Like if people know they're not coming in because they legally can't come in, they're not just going to continue paying. Right?
If anything, it goes to show that people are prepared to pay a premium for service.
Yeah.
Because there was no loyalty to those gyms at all. So as soon as they closed their doors, like, okay, see you later. I'll go spend my money elsewhere. But
on a PT who's willing to do Zoom classes online or whatever it is.
Exactly right. Like people are loyal. Will show loyalty to those that support them. And so I think people like us were able to remain stable and flourish during this time because we put a premium on the service, and we actually give a crap about our people, not about like, you're paying me $5 a week, but I never see you,
just a number.
Thank you. Yeah,
what's
exactly,
your customer
right?
number?
That churn and burn system, like it works fine when the world's turning without an issue, but as soon as something like this hits, there's no loyalty.
This becomes such a business class. Like if your main point of preference is like price, there's always going to be someone who can come along and do it $1 cheaper. Yep. Right. And that's it. And
if like, I'm not in the, gosh, we've got so far away from building an engine. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm not competing against people that are cheaper than me.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. If someone comes to me and says, this guy does it for this, cool. Go for it.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And there will be people that will do that for sure.
And that is okay.
Yeah.
I'm completely okay with that. At the end of the day, I want people to just be happy and get the results that they want to achieve. And, you know, if it's with them, fantastic. I value what I provide to my clients and the people that I work with. I'm not in the business of comparing myself to other people. It's like, hey, if that's what they want to do, go for it. Here are all the things that I'm going to do for you. We're either going to be a really good fit and we're going to work together, or we're not. That's okay.
So I had a really good chat with Andy Tate. I don't know if you know Andy. Yeah. Shout out podcast episode 31. And what we were chatting about is, you know, when you talk about like who's your competition, like for me, it's not taters, it's not OverPowered, you know, it's not affiliates. It's like Kim Kardashian's fucking 2-week meal plan.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's the bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's so much bullshit out there that like, I don't care if a client comes in and goes and works with Cam, as long as they don't go and work with Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we need some sort of safety net around like good providers in the industry.
We need to protect what we do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I posted this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. Now more than ever, small businesses need to support each other.
Yeah.
As we're coming out of lockdown. It's no longer OverPowered athletics versus Albert Park Lake Fitness or anything like that. It's like we're all in a very volatile situation right now.
And there's so many people that need fucking help.
And there's so many people that need help.
Yeah.
So if I'm capped out, I'm going to refer you to people that I know will give you a good service and a good product.
Or you bring on another.
And you bring on, that's it, right? Like we need to help each other out. It's no longer like, don't talk bad about the personal trainer that works out next to you or anything like that, because they're having a hard time during this time as well. We need to help each other because you never know when that favor's going to get returned. And I think that's important.
For sure. And I think the other point of that conversation is that if you are in the health and fitness industry and you've been willing to go through 2020 and still be here, like you most likely do give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? So if you're like still around and still grinding and still working, then we salute you.
100%. Like, as I said, I think COVID did a really good job at giving people the violent shove in the direction that they were already trending. If you left the fitness industry in the last 8 months, you were probably going to leave the fitness industry sooner.
I think it's been an exacerbation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like, you know what, those people, like not to sound like a dick or anything, but those people don't belong in the fitness industry if it was easy for them to just walk away from it and go back to a corporate government job that's secure.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, the people who are successful in the fitness industry are the ones that don't do it for the money. They're the ones that do it because they give a shit about the people that they work with.
It's so much easier to go to work when you give a fuck.
I have no problem getting up at 4:15 in the morning for my 6 a.m. class because I know I'm going to have fun.
Well, I'm not doing that, but I do agree.
I'm not up all night with a little child. So,
neither am I. Shout out to Kat. No, I completely agree. I think, you know, and I think maybe that's the other illusion with the health and fitness industry as well. And this is another conversation we were having earlier. Like, it's not, I'm going to open a gym because I want to just train with my mates, you know? And I think that maybe that comes as a surprise to some people, that it's like, well, you need to have a bit of business now and run this thing properly. And you owe it to your members to stay in business as well. Yeah. Right. But yeah, I think that if you've been able to adapt and adjust and make it work through being like shut down for 8 months, like probably you've made it this far, the chances that you're going to make it the next 10 years are pretty high.
100%. 100%. If you can get through this, like.
And if you're an affiliate and you need some help and you're feeling super fucking burnt out after the last 8 months, then reach out. Because I think, like you said, you know, one goes down, like we all go down a little bit.
Exactly right. And like over the last 8 months, nothing has made me more upset than seeing those stories of those affiliates that have had to close their doors. Like I found out that San Francisco CrossFit closed down last week or are closing down. And I was like, They've been around for 15 years. Like they're probably like the icon of CrossFit affiliates in the world. And
how much of that is like off the back of Glassman and everything else though, do you think?
I don't know. Like I read the statement and they didn't mention any of that sort of stuff. Like it was purely a COVID decision. Like there's only so long your personal life savings can support a business before you're like, hey, it probably isn't a good idea for us anymore.
Yeah.
But I was devastated when I read that, because in my early days as a CrossFitter and as a strength and conditioning coach, I used their resources to guide my training style, whether it was Carl Paoli in his gymnastics or Diane Feward at weightlifting, K-Star in his mobility. If I didn't know the answer, I'm going to go check out what those guys do online. So, they had a really strong impact on my training style and the direction that because it was the first time that I actually saw people trying to educate other coaches in the space. And I thought that was really cool.
That's probably a pretty good way to assess whether or not someone's out for personal gain or whether or not someone actually cares about the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Those free resources are invaluable, especially to up and coming coaches who are new to the industry, looking for guidance and a way to get better and to hone their craft. Experience is great, but you got to have those people that that have been there before, that are willing to share their experiences as well. And once again, it's the common goal. We're here to help people, and whether that's me directly with one person or me putting out a video that talks about how I teach someone to snatch, and then they see that video and they teach it to their client, that scope of influence just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think the universe definitely rewards like paying it forward.
Yeah.
And I will say as well that I probably thought initially we would see more, I guess, carnage in terms of like locally, particularly how many affiliates might be forced to close their doors. And thus far, we haven't seen it in Melbourne.
No, which is
yeah. So, I mean, I've definitely had some very like difficult and confronting conversations with people who are like coin flipping, whether or not to stay around, but thankfully like they all have. So, it's been an interesting year. Like I never thought you would almost have to, it's like making moonshine, like you're like trying to sneak fitness in, like I never ever would have thought that physical activity could be illegal to a degree.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm disguising this personal training session as me working out with my buddy so that I can afford to buy dinner tonight. Like for me, circling back to the whole moving back from overseas, I got no support from the government. So I had to do what I had to do. And like, I'm not condoning, breaking the rules or anything, but like at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table. You got to do what you got to do. And I know there are a lot of trainers out there who were doing sessions under the guise of we're two friends working out together, because that's how you make money.
And I guess we can have the argument of like, how ridiculous is it that you can train with a friend but not take a one-on-one PT client?
Well, right?
But anyway, that's another
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly. Right? We don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Mate, that's been a really good chat. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming down, doing a session.
I appreciate it.
Snuck in. I think, we outside 25Ks. Have we just made it? Is it
yesterday? It went down yesterday. Yeah. So literally first chance we got.
Yeah, nice.
But no, it's good to get under a heavy barbell or heavy-ish barbell. Throw it down.
Heavy-ish. Felt heavy.
It definitely felt heavy.
For anyone that's still listening, congratulations. Cam, your socials again for anyone looking for more information on you.
Yeah, at OverPowered Athletics on Instagram and Facebook, or our website, overpoweredathletics.com.au. Do both in-person coaching for competitive CrossFit and online coaching for competitive CrossFit as well, regardless of whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Hit us up, let's have a chat, see how we can get you ready to crush the Open this year.
And if you're currently in Canada or North America and working out from home, Cam and OverPowered supplied a workout of the week. I think it was week 2.
My quads are still sore for that one.
So there's plenty of inspo there if you want to see what kind of programming Cam can put you through.
100%.
Thanks so much, mate.
Easy, buddy. Thank you so much.
Done. Perfect.
Easy.
Ugh.
I feel like we went for a while there, but
We did.